Good evening, traders. Tonight we have Taylor Horton, VP of Directional Option Strategies at Simpler Trading. This evening, Taylor will be letting you in on his secret to 10x gains in just 6 weeks and how his Supercharged Squeeze System accurately determines the direction and timing of explosive moves in stocks, options, and futures. Throughout the webinar, you may notice interactive features such as polls and offers popping up on your screen. We also have a chat panel on the left where you can chat with the audience, as well as a Q&A panel on the right where you can ask questions that will be answered by our expert moderator team, as well as by Taylor at the end of the presentation. For optimal viewing, you can also hover over the presentation and click Go Full Screen at the top right of the video. I believe that takes care of the housekeeping items. Now it is all yours, Taylor. Take her away.
Hey, what's up, guys? All right. The time has come. The time has come. Let's do a quick sound check. Make sure you guys can hear me crystal clear. Make sure you can see the slides and make sure you can see me myself. They got me on the camera tonight, guys. Had to go get that fresh haircut today. Make sure the fade is nice and tight. Get the beard looking proper, as presentable as possible. But all right, guys, let me just change up one thing here. So for starters, as always, want to thank you all for taking time out of your night to be here, especially after a busy day of trading. And I think we got a busier one coming tomorrow with the CPI report. And I kind of want to hit the ground running and jump right in here, guys. So as most of you know, or all of you know, we're here tonight to announce the official launch of my baby, my passion project, the brand new Big 3 Squeeze. And for tonight's webinar, guys, I don't have too many slides to go through. I figured the less time we can spend in slides and the more time we can spend actually going through the live charts, show you all the pretty colors. One thing I would like to do, so stick around towards the tail end. Once I'm done with the slides, we'll open up the charts. I want to take you through the bull scans and the bear scans. We'll look for a few squeezes for tomorrow, and we'll get a watch list going. And then I want to show you, as I mentioned, tomorrow's the CPI report. I want to show you what I think is one of the bigger setups heading into tomorrow's report. But before I jump in here, guys, whenever I do a webinar, I always love to ask where everybody's tuning in from. So we got a chat over here. If you want to know in the chat, or if you want to let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from, feel free to do so. But before we jump in, guys, just trader to trader, I'm really, really excited about this. There's been a lot of really good indicators that have come out of Simpler over the last 10, 15 years. What I've built here with the Big 3 Squeeze, and I'm not just saying this because I built the indicator, and I actually did build the indicator. So part of the process to getting to this point was actually teaching myself how to code and writing the indicator itself. But I don't say this just because I built the indicator. I've been trading for 10 years. I've been using different indicators for 10 years, and I've pretty much been focusing solely on the squeeze for the better part of the last decade. So I'm confident when I say that what I built here with the Big 3 Squeeze, not just for myself, but I think for all of us, is really going to be a game changer. So I'm super pumped. Before we jump in, though, we're almost at the halfway point of August. So since this year is flying by, figured I would ask y'all, how your year's going so far? And you're amongst friends, so you can be honest. Are we happy with our results so far this year? Are we frustrated? Feeling like we could do a little bit better? Spots of our game to improve upon? Yeah, let me know here in the chat. For me personally, it's been a real breakthrough year. The kind of breakthrough year that you hope to have as a trader. And the breakthroughs really come down to two things. One, I've really honed in on what I feel is the perfect setup. What's that setup where structure, momentum, just everything from the top down is fully aligned for an explosive move? Really honing in on what I believe that setup is, and then just continuing to develop the discipline to literally trade and focus on and manage and scan for nothing but that setup. And the second thing that I've done, which is probably the biggest of the two, is that I've automated my process. So now I'm going about trading these top shelf A+ setups pretty much, guys, on autopilot. I call them business decisions. The business decisions that we have to make as traders day to day. Our downfall is that a lot of times those decisions are based on emotions and they're based on opinions. Two things that we're trying to leave out of the equation. So, should I trade this setup? Is it a good setup? Should I get long? Should I get short? If I get long, where's my profit target? Where's my exit? Again, a lot of those decisions are based on or made based upon emotions. And for me in my trading career, that was always a downfall in the past. So what I've been able to do with the Big Three indicator, or the Big Three squeeze rather, is not just make my job of focusing on what I think is the best of the best. As far as setups goes, I've kind of removed all the guesswork. So now in my day-to-day trading, I'm not making those business decisions for myself. The indicator, the pretty colors, they're making that decision for me. And that alone's been a major game changer. But all right, who is this for? And if y'all want to let me know in the chat, are we day traders? Are we swing traders? We got any futures traders, any stock traders? The good news is everything that we're going to discuss tonight, the indicators, the strategy, the setups, the mindset, it's pretty universal across different asset classes and different time frames. So my personal background is in swing trading, and I've always loved to swing trade the options. With the Big Three squeeze, I'm actually doing a lot more day trading this year, and I've actually ventured into the futures market. So come to find out, there's some nice squeeze action over in the futures market. And then another question I get is, how time consuming is this? Do I have to sit and stare at the charts all day? Personally, I love staring at the charts, but the answer is no. The automation of the process has kind of gotten things to the point where with a couple of simple scans, 10, 15 minutes at night, 10, 15 minutes in the morning before the market opens, that's really all we need to curate that watch list of A+ setups. So kind of covers the basis here for everyone. All right, and then another question for all of you. I got a few questions tonight, so be ready for them. How many of you currently trade what you would consider to be a small account? And of course, a small account is it's a relative thing, right? So let me know here in the chat. But back in earlier May, I'd kind of gotten to the point where, all right, I've taken the Big Three squeeze. I've pretty much got it where I want it, or I've got it close to where I want it. From there, I wanted to challenge myself. What can I do if I trade nothing but the Big Three squeeze for day trades, for swing trades, in the options, in the futures? What can I accomplish? What can I accomplish if I literally trade nothing but that same setup over and over again? So same signals, same entries, same exits, same thing from trade to trade. Now, what happened here, guys, with the small account was pretty much the perfect storm. So on the 15th of May, or the 17th rather, I funded a Thinkorswim account with $2,500, and using the Big Three squeeze, over the course of just about 6 weeks, I turned that $2,500 into a little over $25,000. And one thing that I was able to do along the way was wire out some profits for my good trading. So I got some bills to pay. If my wife wants to go grocery shopping at Target, got to take some cash out for that. So what I did was, again, just trade the same exact setup over and over and over again. Where this was the perfect storm was the timing. So when I funded the account, what the Big Three indicator told me and what the Big Three squeeze told me was that the environment was just like absolutely perfect for aggressive swing trading. The way the S&Ps were setting up, the way the QQQ was setting up, it was like it couldn't have been the better environment for aggressive trading. So three things came together. The absolutely ideal market. Every day I'm focusing on nothing but the highest quality setups, and I'm trading that in a small account with pretty aggressive position sizing. So you combine aggressive position sizing with a really ideal environment and really high quality trades. That is what can lead to some really rapid growth. Now 10x return over the course of a month and a half. That's some pretty big time performance. Keep in mind what you can accomplish if you even grow your account by 50 to 100% per year. That growth really does begin to compound. So on this screenshot here, that's a total amount of profits that I ran together during that 6-week stretch. Now, I'm not too sure if we can do a poll here in the chat. If we can do a poll, maybe one of the moderators here can help me out. I've got a question for all of you. I'm trying to figure out, do I want to start over again with another $2,500 and then from there again turn that into $25,000? Or do I want to start this time with $25,000 and try to flip that into $250,000? And I think if anything, for those of you that are in my mastery, that could be something that I start and we kind of keep track of together. I'm undecided though, 2,500 to 25,000 or 25,000 to 250,000. The latter of which, of course, is the sexier of the two. So maybe y'all can help me decide here. But again, the biggest part of the growth that we can duplicate is just trading the same setups repeatedly for swing trades or day trades, for long positions, for short positions. Just rinse and repeat the same trade as much as humanly possible. But all right, guys, we're gonna strap in now. So one really big component of growing, and I would say a small account, but frankly, growing any account, the foundation of your focus, in my opinion, the foundation of your focus as far as the setups you trade, the indicators you use, is that we want to focus on setups with the potential for explosive moves. Like we're really trying to catch that big juicy stuff. And as far as account growth, the reason that's so important, we want to trade in a fashion that when we're on the money, like we nail that trade, we catch that move, the winning trades have to matter. What we're looking for from our winning trades is that, one, they not only make up for all the losing trades, but two, we want to make sure that our winning trades are helping us move the equity ball forward. So by default, to accomplish that goal, we don't want to focus on the setups with the puny potential. All right, we want that big explosive stuff. So in my experience over the last 10 or so years, there's nothing better than the squeeze as far as an indicator that gives you a heads up that, hey, this given stock on this given time frame is catching its breath, gearing up for what could be a potentially explosive move. When I was first introduced to the squeeze, back in the day, that became my whole foundation. That gave me something to focus on. And then my YouTube video on the squeeze is actually how I got noticed by the folks here at Simpler. So if it wasn't for the squeeze, I might not be a full-time options trader, and I might not be here tonight showing you guys my own version of the squeeze. So everything's kind of come full circle. So looking at the daily chart here of Mara, and again, that's what the original squeeze does a really good job of. It says, hey guys, pay attention. Sometime soon, everything here is gearing up for a big move. So a couple of basics on the squeeze. And out of curiosity, how many of you currently trade or are familiar with the squeeze? Could be the original version, could be the pro version of the squeeze. But for a few basics here, when the squeeze has the red dots, that means we're currently in a squeeze. What that means is that the stock has entered the phase of compression. Compression in plain English means the stock is gearing up for a big push. It's pounding back the Gatorade, catching its breath. Then you have the histogram momentum, or the momentum histogram, and that's your red and your yellow bars. So when momentum is under the 0 line and you have the red bar or the yellow bar, momentum is negative. Momentum is above the 0 line with a light blue bar or a dark blue bar. That tells us momentum is bullish. So the traditional thinking with the original squeeze is that when you find your compression, you find those red dots. If the squeeze histogram is below 0, that squeeze should fire short. Notice here on Mara, this thing sat here in a squeeze with a negative histogram for a few weeks, and it never fired short. Then the traditional thinking is, well, if the histogram is positive, then the squeeze should fire to the upside, right? Notice how Mara is sitting in a squeeze with a positive histogram for 2, 3, 4 weeks until the squeeze finally fires. For me and my trading, that's something that I'm trying to avoid like the plague. I do not want to buy my calls. I do not want to buy my puts and then have to sit there for, never mind 4, 5, 6 weeks. I don't want to sit there for 1 week waiting around for that directional move. So what I'm looking for from the squeeze is really that moment in time where everything's fully locked and loaded. And shortly after I take my entry, if not a few minutes later, then a few days later, I'm being pushed into my profit. What that allows us to do is to work our entries on a consistent basis. That gives us a nice capital turnover. And I think if you're trying to grow a small account, you're trying to grow a larger account, that's a really important factor. Can we find that moment in time where if we latch on right here, right now, very shortly after we're being pushed into a profit? So a big part of answering that question with the squeeze, or figuring that out with the squeeze, is trying to get a sense of what is the path of least resistance. And my answer to that question was and is the big 3 signals. So I know a lot of y'all already have this indicator. We launched this just about a year ago. So we're kind of coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the big 3. But yeah, this is my answer to figuring out the path of least resistance. The pretty colors plotted on the charts. Really simple stuff. If we have the green bar, the green arrow, or the green label, that's the big 3 buy signal. What that tells me is all of my structure criteria, momentum criteria, stacked moving averages, moving average crosses, everything's coming together for the path of least resistance to be to the upside. So therefore, anytime that I get long, I need a big 3 buy signal. And then the sell signal is just the opposite. The red bar, the red arrow, or the red label, that's the big 3 sell signal. So momentum, structure, everything fully aligned for a nice flush lower. So if I get long, I need a big 3 buy signal. And the more the merrier. If I'm getting short, I need a big 3 sell signal. And over the last year, we've made a few modifications to the signals. We've, I think, really fine-tuned them to the point where they do a really good job of calling for direction. So what I realized was, all right, when I have a squeeze, and then during that squeeze, so during that period of compression, that buildup of energy, if the big 3 indicator prints a buy signal, there's a very, very strong chance that squeeze is going to fire to the upside. To me, guys, that's the marriage. That's the beautiful union of what I think are the 2 most important things. The squeeze is telling us there's a big move coming. The indicator, the big 3 indicator, tells me probabilities are strongly pointing towards that big move coming in the form of a move to the upside. So you'll notice here on Mara, you don't get anything, like zilch. You get nada from that daily squeeze until the day the indicator actually prints a buy signal. Now the stage is set for that explosive push. Momentum's lined up, structure's lined up. That helps me answer the $2 million questions with every squeeze. Which way is the squeeze going to fire? And then just as important, when is the squeeze going to fire? All right, again, it's not a matter of catching these moves. How accurately can we catch them as far as the timing goes? I don't want to sit there for a few weeks. I want to take my entry, just like we did on Mara. 5 minutes later, I'm sitting in a profit, and the following day, I'm catching the gap up and catching continuation. So that combination, you have an active squeeze, and we have an active big three buy or sell signal. That combination's been amazing this year. For longs, for shorts. As I mentioned, I'm doing more day trading. So taking that same script has allowed me to become a much better day trader. Taking that same script has allowed me to venture into futures trading with some pretty good success. So quickly, I got to the point where it's like, all right, this is the only setup that I want to focus on, trade, scan for, live it and breathe it. It's the only thing that I care about as a trader is that combination. So then the light bulb went off, and I had the bright idea, why don't I take everything that I love about the original squeeze, modify the couple of things that I don't love, and then incorporate the big three buy and the sell signals. Like, how can I make my job of finding nothing but that setup across any given time frame that much easier and that much more efficient? And then the process started. Taught myself how to code, basically reverse engineered the entire squeeze. And then I've got to guess, guys, 100+ hours later, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of time in the office, I'm super proud to announce the official launch of my baby, the brand new Big Three Squeeze. So this is the squeeze on PEDs. It's the best way I can put it. This is the squeeze on steroids. The initial goal was, can I just make my job of finding that combo easier and more efficient? The Big Three Squeeze knocks that out of the park. That was the initial goal. Then this spiraled into honestly something way bigger than just a squeeze on steroids. It's a squeeze on steroids, and it's basically an entire system in a box. So these labels here that I built out for the squeeze histogram, those labels, guys, they make my decisions now. I'm not actively sitting here making my trade decisions. I'm following the pretty colors and I'm following the rules. So whether or not I should trade a setup, right? Is this a good setup for a long or a short? Where's my target to the upside? Where's my target to the downside? These labels answer all those questions for me. So now I'm trading that A+ setup. I'm trading that awesome combo pretty much really on autopilot. So here's a side-by-side comparison of what has been my love for the last 8 or 10 years and my new love. So again, the goal here initially, can we accurately answer the two big questions with every squeeze? Which direction should the squeeze fire and when should the squeeze fire? And again, the Big Three Squeeze just knocks that out of the park. So we got a couple different pretty colors here. The histogram, the squeeze dots, the labels. So I want to take you guys through a few of the basics here real quick. And then as promised, I want to show you the Big Three Squeeze on the actual charts and a few of the other goodies that I've been working on. Now, one of my goals, and if you think I accomplished this goal, let me know here in the chat. I wanted everything related to the Big Three Squeeze to be simple, easy to follow, and visually appealing. I happen to think all three of those things matter. But the first thing that we have here on the Big Three Squeeze, which is different than the original squeeze, is the custom momentum histogram. So this custom histogram, it actually takes the momentum ingredient from my buy and my sell signals, and now it just smacks it right here on the squeeze. So we have a visual representation of that momentum. Momentum is above the zero line. Momentum is bullish. The bulls have the wind at their back. And if momentum is below the zero line, momentum is bearish. The bears have the wind at their back. So pretty simple stuff there. And then for the squeeze dots, when you get the blue dot on the big three squeeze, that means we're currently printing a squeeze. All right, we've got ourselves a live one. And then the gray dot means the squeeze is either fired or there's just no squeeze at all. And then one more thing to note here, the big three squeeze uses a modified version of compression. So I took the compression settings from the original squeeze and I modified them to my liking. So what this captures is what I think is the sweet spot. We're not going to find the squeeze too early. We're not going to find it too late. We're going to catch that compression right where we want it. All right, so the squeeze dots and then the momentum histogram. And now this is where things get fun. Down on the squeeze histogram, we've plotted the bull squeeze arrows and the bear squeeze arrows. Again, the only thing that I'm focused on trading right now, and likely for the rest of my trading career, is that combination right there. So down on the squeeze, if you get the green arrow, that's what I refer to as the bull squeeze. And the bull squeeze means you have an active squeeze and we have an active buy signal. So again, there's that marriage. Big three squeeze says, hey, it's gearing up for a move. The buy signal, the green arrow, says your structure, momentum, this thing is just pretty much locked and loaded for that squeeze to fire to the upside. So long as that's the case, so long as that green arrow prints, there's a very good chance that squeeze fires to the upside. And then just the opposite, guys, for the bear squeezes. I will show you an example of a bear squeeze, but just the opposite. If you have a red arrow or red arrows on the squeeze histogram, that means you have an active squeeze and momentum, trend criteria, moving average crosses. Everything is currently aligned for that squeeze to fire short. So I mentioned earlier, in that small account, that's the only thing that I traded. Longs, shorts, day trades, swing trades. So to show you that I'm serious here, these are just a few of the screenshots, but that's what I want y'all to notice. Regardless of the stock, regardless of the time frame, we have our blue dots and we got our green arrows. So affirm, blue dot and the green arrow. Freeport, we were only in Freeport for 1 day. So again, there's that timing. Freeport had a blue dot and a green arrow. LRCX, blue dot and a green arrow. Same thing here on Mara. And trading these kinds of setups in that smaller account, in names like Apple, Netflix, and Tesla, that's what allowed me to have some bigger days like this, where that smaller account was up just about $6,000. Rinse and repeat. Netflix, blue dot and a green arrow. OWEN Semiconductor, Pinterest. Now, there you go. So one question I get is, what about the short side? Will this work in a bearish market? It's the same trade, guys, just the opposite direction. The blue dot and the red arrow, there's the big three bear squeeze. So long as that red arrow prints, there's a pretty good chance that squeeze fires short. For day traders, blue dot, green arrow on the Tesla 5-minute chart. That was a nice day trade. Again on Zillow. All right, that's it, guys. That's the pitch. Over and over and over again. So now those arrows plotted on the squeeze histogram just makes that moment in time visually pop. And now with the labels here, again, this is where this becomes way more than just a squeeze. Way more than just an indicator to call for direction and explosive moves. This does all my thinking for me now. So one thing I've noticed about myself as of late, I'm flowing in and out of trades so much easier because I'm not making that decision for myself. Indicator tells me to get long, I'm getting long. Indicator tells me to cut the trade, I'm cutting the trade. It's trading with a real sense of freedom. So for the different labels here, The one that I want to spend the most time focusing on tonight, and I've only got a few more slides here, guys. So once we're done with the slides, that's what we're going to focus on. Big 3 squeeze A+ setup. We're going to run scans for the A+ setup on the bull side, the bear side, and then I'll show you a few cool other things. But that label's everything. When that label is green, that moment in time has everything that I'm looking for. When that label is green, I know I can trade that setup to the upside right there and right here, right now. If the A+ setup label is red, I know I have the perfect short. And I know that I can short it right here, right now. So for example, say we're going through the scans. We find a stock and the label here is green. Big 3 squeeze A+ setup. I know I can trade it to the upside, and I know I can trade it right now. From there, what's my next business decision? If that trade works, where do I take my profits? And for a lot of us, the profit-taking decision, it's an emotional one. What if I cut it off too early? Right? What if I leave a little bit of cash on the table? That's where those voices start to whisper in your head, a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Right? We catch just a few more points, then we'll take profits. For longevity's sake as a trader, that's not going to work. So now we have the bull target and the bear target labels. And what these do is for my bullish trades and my bearish trades, they give me the target for where I should look to take my profits. Not based on opinion, not based on FOMO. They tell me probabilities-wise where I should look to secure my paycheck. They make that business decision for me. Then this label right here, target hit. What that label does is once the price hits the upside or the downside target, that little guy will flash bright green or bright red. And what that is a nice nudge, right? A nice friendly reminder that you did your job. You found a good setup. You took a good entry. You're catching a nice move. It's time to pay yourself. So a nice friendly reminder. And then the last two labels here, there's a saying in basketball. I'm a huge basketball guy. The scoreboard don't lie. Now on the Big 3 squeeze, we have our own live scoreboard for the Bulls and for the Bears. So what this does is takes all my criteria for structure, momentum, etc., and it gives the Bulls a report card, and it gives the Bears a report card as well. So the best possible score for the Bulls is 5 out of 5. Best possible score for the Bears is a 5 out of 5. So if I see something like this on the scoreboard, the Bulls have got 5 points. The Bears have got 0 points. Guess what no part of me is going to consider doing? There's no shot I'm going to think about getting short. It's not my opinion. It's the indicator telling me the Bears have 0 edge. This leans more towards a bullish trade. So we have the A+ label. We have the labels for the upside and the downside targets. We have the target hit label. And then we got the live scoreboard. And what I'll do here in a few minutes, guys, is show you the live scoreboard on the S&Ps and the Qs at the moment, because some pretty interesting things are happening there. But as far as an A+ setup, and like I said, we'll scan for a few of these. I'll show you guys the squeeze radar. But an A+ setup it's really, really simple, but it's also really powerful. And I'm at the point where if I don't have that A+ label, either green or red, I'm just not going to take the trade. So in my book, an A+ setup is when we have an active Big 3 squeeze, printing an active Big 3 buy signal or a sell signal, and price is trading at the entry zone. If I'm going to trade the setup right here, right now, I need those 3 things. A squeeze, a buy or a sell signal, and I need to take an entry in the entry zone. That way I can trade that A+ setup while locking in the best risk versus reward possible. If price is too far away from the entry zone, then regardless of whether or not we have a squeeze or we have a buy signal, I can't take the trade. Right? I need all three of these things for my day trades and for my swing trades. If it's not an A+ setup, then it's not for me. So there's a few basics, guys, and an introduction on the different labels, the squeeze arrows, and all the pretty colors here. And I've only got a few more slides left, so I promise we are getting on to the good stuff here. The trader in me is excited to crank up the scans. But we are going to do a class on Saturday, August 19th for the official launch of the Big 3 Squeeze. And this is where y'all got to pay a little bit of attention because we have different packaging and different pricing based on whether or not you're a member of one of our trading rooms or if you're a member of my mastery. And we have special pricing for those of y'all that originally bought the original Big 3 buy and sell signals. So the first two packages here, you have the basic package and the elite package. So the basic package for $897, that'll give you 30 days of access to my mastery, which I've got something to mention about the mastery here in a minute, but you'll get a 30-day trial to the mastery. You'll get access to the Saturday strategy class. You're going to get access to the original Big 3 indicator. So the buy and sell signals, the colored bars, the multi-time frame labels, all the original Big 3 scans. You're also going to get access to the brand new Big 3 Squeeze and everything that entails. So that's the brand new squeeze histogram, the labels, the squeeze arrows, the squeeze radar, the multi-time frame squeeze labels, and the scans. Everything included in one bundle. And then for those of y'all that sign up before Monday the 14th, since I'm getting more into day trading following this template with the Big 3 Squeeze, I am going to do a bonus day trading session that we'll talk a little bit more about as well. And then the elite package for $1697 gives you everything from the basic package, except with the elite package, you're getting an annual subscription to the mastery group. All right, so basic and the elite. Now, for those of y'all that are currently members of Simpler, and that's members of the options room, the day trading room, the futures room, if you're a member of any one of our rooms, you get discounted pricing on both of the packages. So for you members here, the basic package is $797. And again, that includes the trial, the Saturday strategy class, the original Big 3 indicators, all the bells and whistles from the brand new Big 3 Squeeze, and if you sign up before the 14th, the bonus day trading session. And then the elite package for members is $1497. Now, for those of y'all that are already in my mastery, and for those of you that already bought the original Big 3 indicator, we've got a special discount for all of you. So if you log into your sales account, you should see the special discounted offer. And if you all have any questions on any of the packages, whether or not you're eligible for any of the deals here, you can reach out to customer service at 512-266-8659 or shoot them an email at support@simplertrading.com. And for what it's worth, the team and myself will be here on the line all night. What I'm going to do when I'm done with the webinar, I'll open up my email. So I'll give you guys my email. If you want to reach out with any questions, I've got you covered. And then as far as the mastery goes, so we are going to raise the price of the mastery on August 19th to $597 per quarter and $1997 per year. So here's the thing, guys. I can't say too much, but we've got some really exciting stuff lined up for the mastery coming up in the next 2 months or so. I can't give you details for now, but I would strongly suggest if you want to get in there, you get in there before the price changes and try to get in there before September. If anything, if you sign up for the packages tonight, you can actually trade live with me tomorrow. I'll be live in the mastery tomorrow at 10:30 Central, and then I'll be live again on Friday, same time, same channel. So one more look there, everything involved in the packages. And if you guys and gals need me to come back to this to the sales slides, I am more than happy to do that. One thing I will say about the mastery though is it's really cool that you've got all these traders in one spot, and now we've gotten the mastery to the point where we're all focusing on the same things. You've got this entire group of traders focused on the big three squeeze. So to my benefit, the traders in that group, they're actually bringing me a lot of winning trades. They're A+ setups. They got buy signals. So when you can take that power of focus amongst 50, 60, 70 plus people, it's become a really fun environment to trade together in. And then, as I mentioned, the day trading bonus, I think there's this misconception with day trading that you have to, and this was my misconception, I have to reinvent the wheel. I got to use different setups. I got to use different indicators. What the big three squeeze has taught me is that's not the case. So everything that I would do on a weekly chart or a daily chart for a swing trade, if I want a day trade, I take that same template and I drill down to a 5-minute, a 15-minute, or a 30-minute. And this actually comes with good timing because the way the market's kind of setting up right now, we might be going through a couple of weeks where day trading might actually be the preference over swing trading. So I do think that's coming with some good timing. And one last thing here before we jump into the good stuff. We do have the interest-free payments from PayPal Credit. So whatever package, whatever product you would like, you can throw that in your cart, and then you can apply for a 0% interest line of credit for 6 months through PayPal, which I think is pretty solid. So after this, guys, I'll come back to the slides. If you want, I'll show you different packages again. But with all of that out of the way, let's move on to the good stuff, shall we? All right, first thing I want to show you here. We have the CPI report tomorrow. And I think one of the bigger setups heading into tomorrow is the 4-hour squeeze here on the NQ. The NQ, of course, are the QQQ futures. So first couple of observations here. The NQ has a brand new daily squeeze. We have 1, 2, 3 dots. Now, technically here, the squeeze has started the fire. So the squeeze just starts the fire. But we're at the point where we're still trying to answer that $1 million question. Which way is the squeeze going to fire? And when is the squeeze going to fire? The first thing I want you to look at is the scoreboard. For the first time since May, the Bears actually have the edge here on the scoreboard. Remember, the best possible score is 5. The Bulls have nothing to stand on. The Bulls get 0 out of 5. The Bears have 3 out of 5. So right out of the gate, the scoreboard tells me that probabilities-wise, right now, things lean a bit more towards that squeeze wants to fire short. Until the scoreboard changes, that's how I have to view this. Now, for the 4-hour squeeze here, this did technically fire long. For tomorrow, guys, look for continuation out of the squeeze. What I've come to learn is that a squeeze on the 4-hour chart, that can really pack a punch. So we have this combination here where we have a daily squeeze that just starts to fire. The scoreboard says, yeah, things lean a bit more in the favor of the Bears. And now nested under the surface, we're coming out of this giant 4-hour squeeze. What that tells me for tomorrow is if the Bulls can't fight, everything's pretty much aligned here for a move lower. And we happen to be short for now. So that, I think, the 4-hour squeeze and the daily squeeze on the NQ, one of the bigger setups heading into tomorrow. But all right, y'all. So as far as finding these A+ setups, it's just as easy as running the scans. So here's what we'll do. We'll do a couple of bull scans. We'll do a couple of bear scans. And we'll do one of each for a bigger time frame and then one of each for a smaller time frame. So for sake of conversation, say you're a swing trader and you happen to be leaning a bit more bullish. In that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Big 3 Bull Squeeze scan. And then I'm going to run that scan on the weekly charts, the 3-day charts, the daily charts. It may be the 4-hour charts. The beauty of this scan is that every morning, every night, I'm starting my focus with nothing but A+ setups. So every name on the scan results is going to perfectly fit the bill. We've got those 3 things: a squeeze, an active buy signal, and we can actually trade it right here because price is setting up at the buy zone. So we have BP, Team, First Solar, CCJ. We're not going to go through all of them, but if we check out First Solar, for example, at the moment, FSLR is an A+ setup, as evident by the big green label. We have the squeeze with an active buy signal, and it's all setting up at the buy zone. So guys, as long as that's the case, there's a really good chance that daily squeeze is aligned to fire to the upside. So that's what gets me into a trade. Not opinion, not emotions. Is it an A+ setup or not? So that's what gets me into trades and allows me to catch these explosive moves. More importantly, that label is getting me out of trades when they don't work before things turn into a total disaster. So one example here is ADI. We bought ADI in the mastery right back there because ADI was an A+ setup. Squeezes, buy signals, momentum is bullish, structure is bullish, everything just locked and loaded. In the correct market, I'm going to pull the trigger on that setup as many times as humanly possible. You'll notice a few days later, after we took the entry, what happens? The signal's changed. My daily chart no longer has a buy signal. We've gone from green to gray. My momentum line is no longer above 0. I no longer have the green dot on my squeeze histogram. In other words, on that day right there, ADI was no longer an A+ setup. At that point as a trader, I have to seriously question, why would I continue staying in this trade? My only goal is keeping my cash working in the best setups possible. And you'll notice, guys, the squeeze didn't fire short against me. The setup didn't get hammered. We didn't take out the daily 50. But enough things happened here for that to no longer be an A+ setup. That's where I cut the trade off. I'm not going to play the hopium game and hope things turn around and hope the trade works. If it's an A+ setup, I'm pulling the trigger. So long as it's an A+ setup, I'm going to let the trade work. As soon as that A+ setup disappears, we out of there. Moving on to the next one. So First Solar, great looking daily squeeze. And then another one here would be CCJ. And I'm not going to show you guys all of these because they all look exactly the same. CCJ is an A+ setup. Great option for a swing trader. BP is also an A+ setup. Now, say I'm more of a day trader. I'm still thinking bullish, but I'm a bit more of a day trader. I'm going to crank up the scans and work on the 5-minute, 15-minute, and 30-minute. So the 5-minute bull squeeze, we have Baidu, Dollar Tree, and a few others. So now I know immediately over there on Baidu, down yonder on the 5-minute chart, I have an A+ squeeze on the 5-minute. For a day trade, I'm going to trade that the same fashion I would trade the daily squeeze on First Solar because it fits the bill. Now, what if we're a bit more we're leaning a bit more bearish. Then we're going to go to the big 3 bear squeeze scan. For a swing trader, you might go with a weekly chart, maybe a daily chart. And a couple that I actually like a lot on the daily chart right now, MRK and McDonald's. And you'll see the scan does a great job pointing us towards nothing but A+ setups. So for a swing trade to the downside, McDonald's here is just about as good as it gets. Big 3 squeeze, A+ setup in bright red, tells me I have my squeeze, I've got my active sell signal, and we're trading at the entry zone. So I can short that, and I can short that right here, right now. And then the MRK here, another really good example. All right, I'm a day trader, and I'm thinking about a couple of the shorts. Let's go look for a 15-minute bear squeeze. So again, guys, take your time frame of choice, whether you're a swing trader or a day trader. This is going to point you exactly where you want to focus. All right, 15-minute bear squeezes. We have DHR, ODFL, and ILMN. Let's go peep DHR. Just make sure the scan's working. Perfect, there we go. Squeeze, sell signal at the entry zone. I can short that, and I can short it right now. So you take your time frame of choice. You take the focus on the upside, the focus on the downside. Once you've gone through the scans and you've taken a few names that you like, the next step here, guys, is you take those names and then you build a watch list in what I call the big 3 squeeze radar. This has become really helpful. So on the squeeze radar, we have columns for the weekly chart all the way down to the 5-minute. And what this allows me to do is just have a bird's eye view of all the names on my watch list and visually scan them for squeezes across all of these different time frames. So if you see a blue big 3, that's a neutral squeeze. We're squeezing, but there's no buy signal, there's no sell signal. Neutral for now. Usually a neutral squeeze will graduate to bullish or bearish. The green big 3, that's the bull squeeze. So for team here, we have a big 3 bull squeeze on the 3-day chart, the 2-day chart, and the daily chart. If we throw McDonald's into the mix here, the red big 3, that's a bear squeeze and a sell signal. So McDonald's has a bear squeeze on the daily chart, the 4-hour, and the 2-hour. So what this radar allows me to do is find nested squeezes. And those tend to be the most powerful setups possible. A nested squeeze is when you have 2, 3, 4, 5+ squeezes at once, all happening at the same time on the same exact name. Exhibit A of the power of the nested squeeze is Netflix. So back in May, if you were looking at Netflix on the squeeze radar, somewhere back in here, what you would have seen on the radar was the green big 3 on the weekly chart, the 3-day chart, the 2-day chart, the daily, the 4-hour, the 2-hour, and the 1-hour. Netflix was just like fully locked and loaded from the ground up. One squeeze fires, and the next squeeze fires, and the next squeeze fires. That's what can lead to these really, really nice moves. Now, the other way that we can look for those nested squeezes are on these labels over here. So when y'all sign up for the indicator in the class tonight, you're going to get the link here to this flexible grid. And you get access to everything on the flexible grid. So the main screen here is the squeeze histogram, the labels, the squeeze arrows, and then the buy and the sell signals plotted on the charts. These labels up here in the top right-hand corner, those are the labels for the buy and the sell signals. So Netflix at the moment has a sell signal on the 4-hour chart all the way down to the 5-minute. And then these labels down here, those are the big three squeeze labels. So Netflix has a blue squeeze on the 2-day chart, and that would be a neutral squeeze. The 4-hour and the 2-hour labels are red. That's a bear squeeze. So as I'm going through the charts every day, I'm running my scans. Those are the ones that visually pop out. Say I've got a daily squeeze and I'm trying to get long. What I love to see, other than that daily squeeze being an A+ setup, is that from the ground up, all these lower time frames have a buy signal. That can light the fuse for that squeeze to fire long. And then a huge bonus point is if either inside of that daily squeeze or above that daily squeeze, we have more squeezes printing one of these signals. So the labels here and the squeeze radar, that's how we find the nested squeeze setups. And those are the basics of it, guys. So I'll turn things over for some Q&A here. And if you have anything you want to take a look at as far as names on your watch list, things you're thinking about getting long, getting short, feel free to throw a few at me. And we'll run through a few charts here and see what you guys have got. Before we do that, though, I'll jump right back to the sales slides real quick. And again, for non-members, we have the basic package for $897 and the elite package for $1697. For those of you that are members of the options room, the day trading room, any of our rooms, you guys get the basic package for $797 and then the elite package for $1497. And then again, as mentioned, if you're in my mastery at the moment, or you've already purchased the original Big 3 indicator, go to the sales page after you log into your account, and you should see the special discounted offer. So I'll keep these slides up here for now. Yeah, guys and gals, any questions, anything you want to take a look at? I've got the live chat up, so feel free to throw them on over. All right, get the chat open here. And all right, here we go. Lorraine, really good question. So when I'm swing trading, how long do my trades usually last for? It depends on a few things. The first thing is the time frame. I might swing trade on an hourly chart. And that might be a trade that tends to unfold a little bit quicker than, say, a weekly squeeze. So my thinking is I'm going to take the time frame, and then I'm going to choose an expiration that gives that trade more than enough time. But what I found, Lorraine, is that when we follow the template, the squeeze on, for example, if the squeeze on the daily chart is A+, and then the big 3 indicator has nothing but buy signals printing from the ground up, there's the timing. That's when we can buy that squeeze. And a lot of times, a few minutes later, we're already in a profit. I showed you guys a few examples earlier, but that tends to be the case. The trade that we had here in Pinterest, we bought Pinterest the day before the big push. When we bought Mara before the big push. When we shorted Solar Edge, we shorted it before the big flush. So at this point, even my trades based on a bigger time frame like a daily chart, they tend to last for as few as 2 or 3 days to 5+ days. Good question. All right, another good question here. Am I trading long calls and puts, or am I doing credit spreads, debit spreads? It's an interesting question. So for what it's worth, I love credit spreads. I love debit spreads. I think they have a time and a place. Back in the day, I was the credit spread guy. What the big 3 squeezes allowed me to do is lean a lot more into just purely directional strategies. If I find a squeeze of the sell signal, I'm going to buy puts. I want to maximize the potential of this push. And then same thing on the upside. If I can find that dialed in moment in time, everything should be off to the races here pretty quickly. So I'll buy those at the money or slightly in the money calls. And then when the trades work, that's where I'm walking away with the best bang for your buck as possible. I still think you can take credit spreads and trade these with just as much success. But I am leaning a bit more into the long calls and the long puts. Yeah, so the system tells you the entry price. Well, no, let me reword that. The A plus label, so let's go back to CCJ. The A plus label will tell me that all my criteria is met and the stock is trading at a price where I can buy it right here, right now. So what I'm looking for, guys, is for price to be as close to, let me get the daily chart here. My buy zone is as close to that daily 21 EMA as possible. So as long as that label is green, that communicates to me I've got it at the buy zone. The stock is trading at a level where I can trade it right here, right now. I'm not too early and I'm not too late. I'm not chasing the squeeze. I'm locking in what I think is the best entry. So if that label is green or red, that tells us we can take the entry right here, right now. And then the target labels, that gives us a good sense of where we should look to take our profits. So for CCJ here, the label is telling me, hey, once price gets to about 36 bucks, that might be time to consider taking the profits. All right, out of this daily squeeze, that's the higher probability move. So good question there. Good question there. All right, guys, a few more questions. A lot of good questions here. I'm trying to filter through as many as possible. Yes, exactly. So Anthony, say that A plus label is going to tell us two things. So if we're going to get short, say, DHR on the 15-minute chart, the only reason I can get short DHR on the 15-minute chart right now is because that label is bright red. At the moment, on this time frame, DHR is an A plus setup for a short. So as long as that's the case, that's a high quality trade. Price bounces a little bit, things get a little bit choppy. That will continue to tell me whether or not I'm still on the right side of that squeeze. As soon as we lose a little bit of edge, either momentum shifts against us, the structure shifts against us. As soon as we lose our edge, that label will no longer be red. So if I got short here, based on this being an A plus setup, and then 20, 30, 40 minutes later, that label goes from red to gray. Now my cash is tied up in what is no longer a top shelf setup. I have to cut the trade off at that point. Logically, to me, it doesn't make any sense to stay in that trade. I'll keep my cash working as long as I've got all that edge working in my favor, the signals working in my favor. That will tell me when all of that has changed. So my exits last week on ADI, US Steel, we took those trades off when that label went from green to gray. It's not A plus. I can't hang around. I can't play the game of hopium as I used to. All right, guys, a couple more here. So the big three squeeze will print on any time frame that you want to look at. So on the monthly chart, for example, I got to show you guys this. No pun intended, but check out these apples. Apple on the monthly chart is an A plus setup. You have a squeeze, you have a buy signal, it's all setting up at the buy zone. The last time you had that combo on Apple, your blue dot and your green arrow, that led to a substantial push. Apple's only had 3 monthly bull squeezes since the stock IPO'd. One of them being back in 2017, the other one after COVID, and now the current one as we sit here today. So this will work on the monthly chart. It'll work all the way down on the 1-minute chart. So there's Apple with a blue dot, a red arrow, telling you that 1-minute squeeze wants to potentially fire short. So it'll communicate the same things regardless of the time frame. Then you can take your pick. If you're an intraday trader, you're a swing trader. For those of you that are a bit bigger picture, longer term, you like buying leaps. For you guys and gals, something like that monthly squeeze on Apple, that should be right up your alley. For a day trader, then you're looking for 5-minute time frames, 2-minute time frames, and whatever you see fit. But yep, it works across every time frame. So at the moment, the scans are only available on Thinkorswim. I do know we're going to try to change that sometime soon. For what it's worth, guys, to my knowledge, this might have changed, so don't quote me. To my knowledge, you can open up a Thinkorswim account without actually having to deposit any cash. So worst case scenario is you open up a Thinkorswim account just for the sake of the scans and just for the sake of that big 3 squeeze radar. Now, the good news is the squeeze histogram, the arrows, the labels, the signals, everything that you see here on this flexible grid, it's all live on TradingView as well. Admittedly, the TradingView version is very pretty. Very pretty. But we are going to work on alternatives to the scans for sure. Taylor, when I open a position, am I adding that symbol to my watch list? Yeah, Paul, good question. So my thinking is the more squeezes, the merrier. My focus might be the 30-minute squeeze. But without a doubt, guys, if inside that 30-minute squeeze, there's a 15-minute and a 5-minute, now that 30-minute squeeze just got better. Right? Now it's a nested squeeze. When you have the alignment across different squeezes, that makes your setup on that one given time frame, I think, a lot stronger. And then just the opposite. Say I've got a swing trade going in BP. I say, hey, BP's got a bull squeeze on the daily chart, a bull squeeze on the 4-hour chart. Let me jump in and get long. I buy my calls, I sell my puts. If the following day, inside of that daily squeeze and that 4-hour squeeze, imagine I get a 15-minute bear squeeze. My 15-minute chart prints a squeeze and a sell signal. Now, that might not get me out of the trade on its own, but that's a decent heads up. Where everything looks good on these time frames, but you are getting a little bit of a shift under the surface, and you might want to pay attention to that. So what I'm looking for from the radar here is either confirmation that I'm on the right side of the move, the more squeezes the merrier, or the opposite. I've got a lot of squeezes, but some of them are starting to shift in the opposite direction. Something you definitely want to be mindful of. All right, guys, do a few more here. So, Joel, if the higher time frame conflicts, do we avoid the trade? The whole concept, guys, here is alignment. The strongest stocks are the stocks where on a weekly chart all the way down to a 1-minute chart, everything's just on the same page. Momentum's bullish, structure, stacked EMAs. That's the best of the best. So that's always my thinking, is the total picture. Not just not just solely a focus on that one time frame, but the total picture. So, for example, we found Baidu, or was it Baba? Let me go back and look. I'll show you what I mean here. 15-minute squeeze. Well, here's a good way to look at it. We've got these 15-minute bear squeezes. So we'll take DHR, and because DHR is coming up on the scan, we know that the 15-minute chart is currently setting up for a good short. From there, I want to take into consideration the total picture. So one thing that I don't love about the idea of getting short DHR, even though the 15-minute chart says, hey, you have an A+ setup, is that the daily chart, and I happen to think the bigger the time frame, the more weighting it carries, that 15-minute sell signal, that 15-minute squeeze, is printing inside of a daily chart that's almost picture perfect. That's a 15-minute bear squeeze in a daily chart where the bulls have 4 out of 5 points and the bears have 0 points. So yes, the 15-minute looks good for a short. Is that an example of a name where it's aligned from the top down for a short? Not really. An example of that would be McDonald's. I might short McDonald's tomorrow. That's a perfect example. This 15-minute squeeze with that 15-minute sell signal, look at what it's setting up inside of. That's a 15-minute bear squeeze printing inside of a daily bear squeeze. My other time frames, they all have sell signals as well. The 5-minute, the 2-hour, the 4-hour. There's the alignment from the daily chart down. So now that 15-minute squeeze becomes that much more powerful. Potentially, that 15-minute squeeze fires short. That could trigger the 30-minute squeeze to fire short. That could trigger the hourly squeeze. That could trigger the 2-hour. And then that could eventually trigger the daily squeeze. Even if my goal is to just simply day trade McDonald's, I'd rather day trade that 15-minute squeeze short inside of this total picture. So a really, really good question there. Really good question there. All right, guys, see what else we got here. But yeah, if the higher time frame conflicts, for me, the choice is to pass. Kind of like the S&Ps. So you got short the S&Ps in my mastery yesterday based on a 1-hour bear squeeze. Now, while the daily chart is not a perfect short, it does lean a little bit more bearish. The bulls get a score of 1 and the bears get a score of 3. So being that the bigger picture leaned a little bit more bearish, I feel like I've got more of a green light to then go trade that 1-hour squeeze for a short. I'm not trading that 1-hour squeeze for a short when my daily chart looks like that. All right? No way. No way. But all right, guys, we'll do a few more questions here. And then, like I mentioned, I'll make sure that somewhere in the chat, we'll post my email address. I'll be up pretty much all night. It does take a little bit of time to unwind after the webinars. So any questions you have tonight that I didn't get to answer, feel free to reach out through email, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Always enjoy chatting with other traders. But all right, we'll do 2 more questions here. Then we'll take a quick look at the futures, and then we'll call it a night. All right, let me see here. Got a couple of good ones. Time till expiration. So as far as time till expiration, that comes down to the time frame you're trying to trade. So at one extreme would be the Apple monthly squeeze. And in the mastery, we've been talking about this for a while here. What we've been waiting for in the mastery is a pullback a little closer to the buy zone. So then we can buy some calls that expire, 6, 9, 12 months down the road and just sit back and let that bad boy go. So on something like an extreme, a monthly squeeze, if I take that trade tomorrow, I might buy next August expiration calls. All right, going all the way out to next year. If I'm trading a squeeze based on a smaller time frame, I'm going to give the trade way less time till expiration. What I'm always mindful of is fighting against premium decay. Always mindful of that premium decay. So on a 5-minute squeeze, a 15-minute squeeze, I like to give my options trades at a minimum at least 5 days till expiration. You get into that 2 to 3 days till expiration, it can work, but you are cutting it a little bit. You are cutting it a little bit tight as far as fighting the clock, right? And these are all things, guys, we'll talk about in the Saturday strategy class. One thing I didn't mention, but what I'm going to give you in the Saturday class, and what's great is if you trade futures, like whatever you trade, your asset class of choice, your time frame of choice, the template that I'm going to give you guys, you can take to anything on any time frame and crank out some really good trades. So just visually using the indicators, there's a template that we're trying to follow for every single trade that we take. But all right, y'all, let's take a look at the futures and then we'll call it a night here. And again, I really appreciate the time. Really appreciate the time. All right, S&Ps, what do we got? What do we got? So the first thing that sticks out here, two things that stick out. We have a 5-minute squeeze of the buy signal. We have a 4-hour squeeze with the sell signal. And we also have a daily squeeze that just started to fire short. So for tomorrow's CPI report, that I think is the squeeze to watch. And tomorrow, one of two things could happen with the 4-hour squeeze in the S&Ps and the NQ. At the moment, everything would suggest there's a pretty good chance those squeezes fire short. And tomorrow, guys, if that is the case, they do fire short. You really want to be out of the way on your longs. Avoid getting ran over. And there should be a few trades in there to actually cash out on the short side. What might happen instead, unlikely for now, but subject to change, they've taken these 4-hour squeezes right to the verge of firing short. From there, they might slingshot these to the upside, which can then trigger a pretty explosive push to the upside. I'm excited. So for those of you in the mastery, we'll work through that in real time together tomorrow. But all right, guys and gals, we'll call it a night there. And like I mentioned, thank you for your time tonight. For those of you that have been in the mastery, in the options room, those of you that subscribe to my YouTube channel and have been waiting patiently for the Big 3 squeeze, thank you very much for your patience. It's been a process. Started 10 years ago trading the original squeeze, right? Looking up the guys like JC and Henry. That squeeze video helped me find a spot here on the simpler roster, and never would have thought I would have my own version of the squeeze. So when I crank up the charts in the morning, I'm definitely appreciative and definitely proud of what we put together here. But all right, y'all, have a great night. Thank you for your time. Hope to see all of you in the mastery tomorrow at 10:30 Central. And for the rest of you, I'll see you on Saturday the 19th. Have a good night, guys. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Adios.